Welcome, everyone, to the Emergent Essence Dynamics free webinar number 7, Deconstructing Conflict, A Door to Unity Consciousness. Today is August 7th, and we have joining us Alina, Philippe, and Christina. Welcome, everyone, to the webinar.
Hi there.
Hello, you could say hello.
Hello.
Great. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. This is a pretty big call. There's so much information I can share with you here. I don't know if I can get it all in, but I wanted to give you an overview of how to look at conflict very differently that also reveals how EED generally works and how it can be applied to conflict situations, resistance, and this applies across the board to life in general, coaching work, facilitation, mediation, etc., etc., etc. EED takes a completely different approach to conflict than, say, other methods or systems do, all right? To be very blunt, EED does not look at conflict as a problem. It is not a problem. It, in fact, is an inherent expression of humanity, and it's nothing to be feared. Now, hold on. Let me close my window. There's a lot of street noise. Of course, we have natural assumptions about conflict that make us naturally want to fear it. It's because conflict can get out of control. It can escalate. We don't know how to handle it. What's actually happening is we by resisting conflict, we aggravate conflict, and it just goes in circles and it goes nowhere. And we get trapped in this circular game. So I'm going to break it down for you. One, how EED sees conflict, how we see it working, how it actually functions as a game, and then how to get underneath that game and how to stop going in circles, okay? How to get down to the real truth that's trying to emerge through the conflict, how we then can release ourselves from it. And when we can do that, we can actually use moments of conflict as a way to become more resilient and creative in relationship rather than destructive. Okay? And what EED is generally all about, EED meaning emergent essence dynamics, it has everything to do with all our human interactions have a dynamic to it, have patterns, have games that we play. And we call these fractal dynamics, meaning that, I'm saying this for the benefit of those who haven't been on the webinars before, because I know, Philippe, you're here often. All human dynamics function in cycles. They have patterns to them. And so EED looks at what is the main repeating pattern in each moment, okay? How can we use that to actually access the source behind it? What's trying to be expressed? That's what we mean by what's emerging. What are the impulses behind the dynamics, okay? The dynamics are just the outward expression of our behavior, but we have pure and true intentions behind that, but we don't always access that source level. So what EED does is it recognizes the patterns, it breaks through those to access our source essence, which builds source resilience, meaning before we change anything, we access our creative source and resilience in order to actually play our games better, so to speak. We access resilience before trying to transform anything. Because EED believes we are always in constant transformation. It's just a matter of, are we fighting those natural transformations or not? When we get in flow with what's already naturally transforming, we can be, and we are resilient with it, we can co-create with it, and therefore we can effect more sustainable transformations where we inject our desires and wills but it's not according to fear. It is according to source. That is a big difference. Creating from source rather than creating from fear. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Philippe, you have something. Yeah.
Yeah. When you say conflict, do you think mainly of conflicts with other people or inner conflicts?
Both.
Or,
I'm talking internal and external conflicts. And what I'm going to say is that all external conflicts essentially arise from our own internal conflicts. Those external conflicts are simply outward projections of what we're already in conflict with inside. Now, I'll just put a disclaimer in there. We may not be aware of our inner conflicts. But when we start to recognize what are these external conflicts, we can then start to discover, aha, this is actually existing within me as well. And the way EED works is it doesn't matter if we can reconcile the external or the internal, they affect each other. Okay? Mm-hmm. If I can use an external conflict and create reconciliation, I'm going to at the same time be reconciling internally. When there is that internal reconciliation, there's no need for that external conflict anymore, or that particular game in the conflict. It's going to move on. I might be getting ahead of myself here, but Irene, welcome. Good to see you.
Happy to see you.
Happy to see you. Yes. So welcome to the call. So yeah, EED is dealing with all human interactions according to fractal patterns. We deal primarily first with building source resilience, then we can work with resistance and use resistance to reveal even more essence. Mm-hmm. Then we can reconcile ourselves, our self, our ego, with our own source essence and have a free flow between the two. We don't eliminate identity. We don't deny ego, but we want to get ego and essence in balance with each other. So ego is a more accurate and pure expression of who we are at our essence, rather than a distortion of it, okay? When ego goes out of control, we become a distortion, okay? And we become disconnected with source. And this applies to coaching, leadership, mediation, conflict, energy healing, all of these things, and life in general. Okay. Okay, we're okay for time. Okay, so I'd love to hear briefly from each of you. And Christina, if you don't have audio, you can simply type in something, okay? You can always raise your hand and type something on the chat. I have that open, I can see it, okay? Also, any out of you, feel free to interrupt me at any time or type into the chat with a question, okay? I wanted to ask you briefly, so what do you fear or avoid most about conflict? And why are you here? What is it you most want to learn either about conflict, or what do you want to change in your perception around conflict? Okay. You don't have to answer all of those questions, but use any one of them to just briefly add in what you're most interested here. And I'm going to note it and weave that in, okay?
I can go first if you'd like.
Yes, Philippe, great.
So, to me, my main problem about conflicts is it kind of I feel like I'm going forward with the brakes on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like I don't like it when there's disharmony with other people, and also it really feels like we're not working hand in hand anymore, and we're using a lot of energy to try to be right or to try to make a point and not moving forward. And this is both the things, moving slowly forward or being in disharmony. These are two things that personally affect me. So this is one side of it, and the other side is, so this is for the personal side. Mm-hmm. And for more for coaching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just love to have new tools to help people solve their own conflicts.
Okay. Great. Okay, great. I've noted all of that. I'll come back to it in a bit. Okay. I'm going to hear from others, and then I can put it all together in what you guys and recapture what you've already stated. Okay. Good. Who else?
Okay, I'll continue. For me, any conflict sucks a lot of energy out of me, and I find myself in a difficulty to bring in the same level of energy of motivation to go further. And when sometimes I found sucked into somebody else's conflict, not mine, but I had to be there because it was expected from a manager to to manage the situation. And again came with lots of energy drained and a narrower let's say ability to focus on on the real problem at hand, as opposed to conflict.
So just on that last statement, you're saying you don't know what the real issue is beneath the conflict, or you don't know what it's really about, it's difficult to find, or what do you mean there by that last statement you made?
I mean that in dealing with it, I find that the focus is swept away, and it's difficult to recenter everyone's attention to what's really important.
Okay, great. Okay, great. How about you, Irina or Christina?
Well, I'm dealing with the company that is facing a huge changing and transformation, and this creates a huge conflict between the team leadership members. And the problem to me is the very manipulative chief of this group.
What?
Before to come to you, I just talked with a person that she has this incredible huge energy. I'm able to change the energy using my own energy, fortunately, but how to deal with the person that it's very manipulative and he wants to put people down on his control? This is my question.
Okay. So what you're saying is, how do I recognize manipulative behavior? How do I neutralize it, or immunize myself from it, or not get pulled into it? Is that what you mean?
Yes, it's about me, and also how can I help him to be more effective without being so manipulative with the other leaders.
Okay. So how can, and this is also important. I'm going to say, how can you cultivate more resilience and humility in himself so he doesn't need to manipulate?
I have also to be humble to deal with this person.
Okay, yeah, this is something we can get into a bit later. This is part of our conflict course, definitely, dealing with manipulations. I just don't know how much time we're going to have that discussion, but possibly towards the end we can talk about some classic manipulative behaviors, okay? Because they are the game starters. They're what they fish the game. They fish you into the game or try to control the game, okay? So, good. Christina writes, I fear I would be radical in my conflicts with others, and I don't like being consumed in my inner conflicts. Okay. Is there anything more you'd like to say on that, just to clarify? That means you would like to be more radical in your conflicts, but you fear doing that. What is it you fear exactly if you are more radical? And yes, okay, I get that's clear. I don't like being, you are too radical. Okay, so then what happens? Is it too destructive? Does it do you shut people down? Or what is it you'd like to learn? Because I don't think it's wrong to be radical, okay? I think a lot of people try to control us by saying, you know, don't be so confrontational. Okay, disturbing the relationship. All right, that's good. It disturbs the relationship. This is a very good point, because this also has to deal with manipulative behaviors. I'm going to take a guess here, Christina, that you might be too radical, you might be too direct, and they might come back and say you are too offensive. You hurt me. Ha ha ha. Yes, okay. This is really important, okay? That's a sign that the relationship is not resilient, and at least one person on the one side is not resilient. I can give you some remedies for that, okay, on how to still be direct, but encourage more resilience so they do not use this shield of you're too offensive, because that actually is a shield and an attack to try and control the game and not move into humility. Okay, this will become clearer later. Okay, and there is self-management necessary when you want to be direct, and when you must call a spade or tell the truth. I mean, people will naturally have these defensive behaviors, okay, and we need to be able to neutralize those. You can refer back to our webinar on masks and shields, or ask me for a recording of it if you don't have it. Okay, that was a couple months ago. Okay, great. Now I'll give you sort of a breakdown of what conflict is and how it works. And then what I'd love to do is, I'm hoping we have time, that I could do a small demo, which would look like a coaching, but this is how this will be relevant for you, Philippe, but also for anyone. How can you work with a conflict remotely? A client or someone says, I have a problem with so-and-so. You don't need the other person in the room with you. You just work with the client. Basically, you help manage the conflict they're already having with that person. But what you're really doing is you're managing their inner conflict, and then it changes how they're projecting out. So it changes how they're going to interact with that other person the next time. Okay? We call this working with relationships remotely. And this is how you can reconcile conflicts remotely. Okay? So it's a longer process. It actually demands about 45 minutes to 60 minutes of work to get through the full process, but I can give you a sampler of it, so you can see some of how it works, okay? So I'm hoping we have enough time for that. And you learn this in Module 3 of EED. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about just the principles of conflict. Okay? So I've got my little iPad here for reference. And you know what I'm thinking? I just need a little bit more light here. Sorry about this. No, that doesn't work. No. I'll try this one. Just need a little bit more light. Let's see if that makes any difference or not. It's just looking slightly dark. Well, a little better. You get a little extra light. So, okay. All right. So here's the way we look at conflict. Conflict is essentially a game that we play. Okay. Meaning we play back and forth. When I'm saying it's a game, it's like we play to win. It feels like win or lose when we're having a conflict. Is that clear for everybody? Okay. And each game is cyclical, meaning it will repeat and repeat and repeat. I will show that to you in a little bit of how that cycle works, okay? Now, so conflict is a game. Each game is cyclical. It repeats. And everybody plays a game, okay? There are games upon games upon games. So you may have many layers of games, but there is, in the end, one large game being played, okay? Now, we have three things here. We have every game, okay, so conflict is a game. Every game has a dream, all right? Meaning, what does this conflict want to essentially create? What's it for? It's like, what's really important here, but beyond the struggle back and forth? There's something underneath that's trying to emerge through the conflict. That's what we mean by the dream, okay? And every game has a lesson. Yeah, Philippe, question.
Yeah. When you say every game has a dream, does it mean a dream in common with the different parties, sorry, to the conflict, or one for each party of the conflict?
Well, the relationship has a dream. It wants to evolve to a next level, and it's using that game to make that evolution. This is why the lesson is important. When the lesson is learned, okay, when we reconcile the lesson, meaning reconcile with ourselves and each other, like, aha, you're here to actually teach me something, and you'll see that I'm here to teach you something. When we finally have the humility and acceptance to learn that lesson, rather than fight for whatever prize we're trying to win, when we reconcile that lesson, the game completes and it dissolves, okay? So each game is actually a vehicle for our own evolution. The evolution of the relationship, meaning it can progress to a new level, but our own evolution as well, okay? So every game is teaching something from us. It's offering us a lesson which requires us something to learn, but when we learn that lesson, it produces a new strength, a new level of resilience, a new level of intelligence, awareness, and creativity. Okay? Is that making sense? Any questions?
Yeah.
So here's another way to look at it. When we call conflict a game, it gives you a little bit of distance, meaning, okay, yeah, it feels real. This is a real struggle. I'm in it, but it's actually an illusion, okay? There's something else trying to happen. So if you can be more relaxed in this game, you actually can have more resilience to play the game better, okay? The game's not going away, okay? But I mean, how do you behave when you're playing a game and you take yourself so seriously, you take everyone so seriously, you feel like you're losing, and you get triggered and you feel out of control? I mean, that's the worst experience, right? And that's when things escalate. But if you could say, well, this is a game, take it with some humor. I'm not denying that it's happening, but you'll have more room for acceptance, humility, resilience, and you'll be able to see beyond the game and into the dream, okay? I will explain that process shortly, okay? So when we dissolve one game, another game begins. And that new game has a new lesson. So there's good news and bad news. We can move from one game to the next in an upward spiral of evolution, because as we said, each game repeats until we learn the lesson. Then we've got a new game. Now we're on another level. Point is this reality is based on game. Our physical world, our physical relationships, they are based on this back and forth interaction. We learn and express through these games. So it's not about trying to eliminate the game. It's trying to capture the game, grab the lesson, learn, absorb, and move on. Okay, the longer we stay in a game and keep repeating it over and over, that's what creates the suffering. We suffer in the game when we refuse to recognize or learn the lesson. And when we make winning more important, I have to win the game, we're not actually recognizing or learning the lesson. Okay? Here's the bad news. In order to learn the lesson, whatever prize you thought you were fighting for, when you are able to actually let that go and drop the prize, you're actually learning the lesson. Okay? That might sound counterintuitive, but this is what always happens in our conflict processes, is when we reach a point of reconciliation, when the person is resilient enough to let go of that prize, meaning I use the prize to hold you prisoner. Okay, basically. I'm trying to gain something from you. And I will not let that go, because if I let it go, I feel like I lose. The irony is, I don't need that prize. When I let go of the prize, I actually learn and discover, oh, I already have that within. I've been using you to try and cultivate that new quality or strength, when actually I do have it in myself. I might be jumping to the end of the whole thing here, but I'm telling you, when we let go of the prize, that's one way of starting to learn the lesson and release ourselves from the game. How are you guys doing so far with this information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. So the goal is not to win the game. The goal is to learn the lesson and let go of the prize we've been holding on to all along. Okay. By holding on to the prize, that's what started the game in the first place. I decided what I need to win, therefore I need to create the game to win that prize. That's basically how it works, okay? Now, let me tell you this. Every game is based on two things: control or power, and validation, meaning I need to know that I exist. I need to know that I exist, and I need to know that I'm in control, okay? Those are our two basic games. It's about power and validation. Both of these are driven by fear and emptiness. All games are driven from a sense of emptiness, meaning I lack something. And that means I get scared, fearful, and I have to, that's what's driving the game. That's what makes me need and want that prize. I'm thinking that prize is going to eliminate my fear, and it's going to eliminate my emptiness. You guys following this, okay? Good. Now, when we talk about the dream, basically, every conflict dreams of unity. So every conflict is actually about connection. And every conflict essentially plays its game through two channels: violence, which is obvious, or sex, meaning that can mean domination as well. But so violence meaning power and control, sex meaning validation and connection, okay? But both are a way to connect. Now, I'm not saying that every conflict is, at its essence, it's about sex or violence. We're either fighting or flirting, okay? And sometimes the two come together, and you know, and you would call that, well, then that's rape. But I mean, those are on the extreme, okay? But essentially, if we're playing for validation, okay, we can either get validation through sex or validation through power and violence, okay? If I want to control, I can control you either through violence, power, control, right? Domination, or through sex, I can control you, okay? How are you guys doing with that? Sometimes I get mixed responses here, okay? How can that be? I'm just having an argument. Yeah, well, at its essence, are you flirting or fighting? What is going on here, right?
So what you're saying is, in essence, the same as the disc theory, where you have domination or inducement.
What do you mean by inducement?
Well, domination is when you force people to do things, and inducement is more like you,
like seduction.
Yeah, exactly. You seduce them into doing what you want. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring up that as well on how we play the game. Okay. Now, here's what I'm going to say. When we're in the game, we feel incomplete. So each side is incomplete, and each side completes the other, okay? Because we're playing the game from ego, not essence. Game is the same as ego, okay? It's ego trying to fight to feel more complete or validate itself to feel more complete. So this is like an obvious example is codependent relationships, all right? You complete me, I complete you, all right? And so each side is striving to feel complete on onto itself, okay? And they're using each other to feel complete. But in the end, they do not feel complete because we're two separate beings. So in order to win the game, one side absorbs the other. This is why we either conquer the other person or we infiltrate the other person. You either smash the enemy or you infiltrate their camp and destroy them from the inside, okay? So I either dominate you or I get inside you where you think you have power over me, but then I absorb you, okay? So it's eat or be eaten. Now, you might say, but this sounds so violent and it doesn't sound at all like higher consciousness. Well, the ego is operating from fear, and fear is our animal nature. It's our reptilian brain, okay? So these games are designed on the primal animal level, okay? Now, we can try to play these real smart, and we can try to pretend like we're really intelligent, but if you underneath that, it's still this animal drive of survival. Okay, you are in survivor mode when you are in fear and when you feel like you lack something, and then you feel threatened. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So when we play to win, we're locked into a never-ending game. It's either win or lose, and win or lose is a polarity. Okay, polarity meaning a duality, an opposite. Two extremes that cannot exist at the same time. Okay? You either win or you lose. Okay? So as soon as you've chosen, I have to win, you've chosen one side of the polarity. Now you're in this polarity, this duality. Yeah. This is why giving up the prize means it's neither win nor lose. That's one way of collapsing the game. When we are resilient enough to let go of the prize and still be okay, and still be in connection and relationship. Now, so the most important thing is every conflict dreams of unity. So in that way, it's expressing itself through power or validation, or sex and violence. Both are ways of connecting. I think I've said this before in previous webinars. Yeah. If you think of violence, if I need to destroy you, I punch you in the face, okay? I'm connecting with you, all right? That's a way of connecting. I hit you, okay? So, and of course, sex, of course, you know, we merge, okay? So both are means of connection, but they're very crude forms of connection. What we're really looking for is essential unity, this oneness, okay? That's the ultimate dream. All right, let's see. I'm going to show you something here. Okay. Wow, this is taking more time than I thought. Okay. Am I moving okay, or you want me to move faster?
That's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
All right. All right. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here with you. Can you see this?
Yes.
My screen. Okay. This is these are some flip charts from the conflict workshop. Okay. The rules of the game essentially is you want something from me, I want something from you, and that's what this looks like. Here, just let me see, I want this menu here. Okay. My little highlighter here. Spotlight. Okay. Okay. You see down here, it's like I'm half a person, that's what that green line means, and I feel half empty, that's what that dotted red line means. And then you are half a person, you feel half full, half empty. So meaning, where I feel empty, you've got what can fill me up. That means I want your green to replace my red. You want my green to replace your red, okay? What we ultimately want is to become this whole green circle. So that's what I mean when I say, you want something from me, I want something from you, okay? So now we're going to look at dynamics here for a second. So everything moves with, so remember I said the game is driven by emptiness and fear. At my essence, in my ego feels empty. It always wants to fill itself up. It's always oriented towards fulfillment and away from fear. This is animal nature. We move away from punishment and towards reward, okay? So, here, yeah. Where is it? Well, I had a note here. Okay, yeah, emptiness moves into fullness. Okay, so that's our natural animal nature. Our ego wants to move into fullness. Life wants to fill the emptiness. It wants to fill the vacuum. Okay, so what happens is, the more I'm feeling full and complete, I try to hold on to it. I start clinging to it. And then life starts to take it away, and I'm being pulled back into that emptiness. So this is why we get these four behaviors of fight or flee. That's two ways of dealing with the emptiness. I either want to run away from it or fight it. And then I want to escape into fullness or search into fulfillment. And I want to cling and hold on to it so that I make sure it's always guaranteed to be there. Now, this gets reflected in relationships. We flee from each other, we fight with each other, we escape into each other, or we cling to each other. Four main behaviors of conflict, okay? So you see that each person here has their own little green and red, okay, hiding behind them. This means, where are you coming from? A feeling of fullness or a feeling of emptiness? Okay, either one, you're still on a polarity inside. But the point is, what are you showing me? Are you showing me green or are you showing me red? Because I'm going to react in different ways depending on what I'm connected with, my own green. Okay. How are you guys doing with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question. You said that when you're more on the fullness side,
Yeah.
that life would take you back to the emptiness. What did you mean by that?
Well, either life or other people will start pushing, will start challenging you, pushing you back towards that emptiness. You work so hard to get away from what you fear, life's going to start throwing it back at you. Okay? Basically, life is trying to fill every empty vessel. You can't hold, like when the glass is full of water, life keeps pouring water into it, but you don't, your ego will not let that water flow out. Do you understand? And then when it realizes, oh my God, all this water is escaping me, what do? It feels like life is trying to empty the glass. That's how the ego feels. Do you understand? When you are resilient, it's a different state. When you're more connected to source essence, you're more like a glass, a bottomless glass, meaning life flows in and out, and it's not a problem because you are part of the whole flow of life. Ego feels separated from that flow, and it's trying to control its experience in the flow of life. It's trying to actually control the whole flow of life. Okay? It's like trying to steer a river that can't. You understand?
Okay.
And it's afraid of the water at the same time. Does that make a little more sense?
Yes.
So when I'm talking about green and red, think of this as the ego's experience of fulfillment, safety. But it's a false safety. And when we talk about red, it's the ego's experience of emptiness or fear, what it fears. But that's also, and that's for the ego is danger. But again, that is also false because ego is illusion, okay? But it feels very real when you're right inside that ego and it's desperately trying to survive. So, if you show me green and I come from green, that is okay. It's like two magnets coming together. This is how we'll get along. Green to green, okay? Because we're both feeling safe with each other, okay? But that's a conditional safety because as soon as I connect with my own fear and emptiness and I start showing red, guess what's going to happen? You're going to push me away because red never moves to green. I mean, green never moves to red. Green is repelled by red. But guess what? Red is attracted to green. So you can see why a desperate person who sees a strong person, they want to start clinging to the strong person. And the strong person says, oh my God, get away. You're so repulsive. You're desperate. You're weak. Don't take my life force away. Does that make sense?
Yes, very
Classic
much.
vampirism, okay? Now, when you have two fearful people and they're both in red, they are going to repel each other and fight, okay? They're going to try and get rid of the threat, okay? This is the basic pendulum of the game between people, okay? It's, looks kind of like this. So each person, you know, is either flashing green or red, and that's showing whether they connect or disconnect, okay? So what we do in EED is we want to drop the people more into a dream level where there's this full give and receive, where there's no sense of status, no sense of false security anymore. We're both in a resilient place and they can do this free exchange of essence to essence, okay? In order to get there, we have to aggravate the game going on, okay? So we want to swing their polarities. We want to encourage the fight, the flee, the cling, and the escape in order to see what's really going on in the game. What is the green and the red involved? Because each person is fearing one thing and seeking another thing. Then we want to interrupt that polarity, meaning when a polarity swings, we collapse it briefly, they drop into an essential state, meaning there's no more game, no more status. They're more in swimming in an experience of pure potential. We have 10 essential qualities. I may review those with you. This is where we can start building resilience in each person. When they temporarily drop the game and we can sustain their dream, then we want to go back to the game with more resilience to find out more what's going on in the game. And it looks like this, okay? They play their game, there's all these little power plays, and then we can interrupt and they drop into essence for a little bit. It's like a breather, a break from this game, and they gather more resilience. But then quickly, they're going to get back in that game. And then they're going to play a few more power plays. But these are now more important power plays. We crack it. And every time we crack and drop, there are less and less power plays until we get to the main power game that's involved here. Okay? And at that point, they hit what we call death's door. This is where the person refuses to give the prize. And if they refuse to give the prize, meaning it's the final last drop into essence, where they can completely release themselves from the game. If they choose to hold on, they're going to start the whole game again. This is why conflicts go in circles. They might hit point, almost like a reconciliation resolution, but then they say, oh no, I can't forgive you for that. And then it starts again, and they bring up all the little things from the past all over again, and we've got the whole game going again. So it's at death's door that we have the opportunity to learn the lesson, let go of the prize. We have a whole, I'm not going to get into how we do that, but I'm just saying, in every conflict, you want to watch in yourself, what am I really clinging on to, where I've got my heels stuck on the ground? What do I refuse to give up to? Because it will feel like I lose everything. And then if you ask yourself, don't rush yourself to give it away, but I'm saying ask yourself, if that feels like death, if I told them I love you, if I say to them, all right, fine, you're right, we'll do it your way, what does that mean to me? What am I giving up? What would I be losing? And then ask yourself, if I lose that, am I still okay? What enables me to be okay? Okay. So if you're able to find some resilience there and say, okay, fine, I'll tell this person they are right. I'm giving a very, very superficial example here. It relaxes you, which will relax them. Even by you just thinking it starts to open things up, and you can loosen your hold on that death's door. When we learn the lesson, we can pass through that death's door, and when the lesson is absorbed, we reclaim actually what we felt we lost. And the need for the game dissolves because there's no longer a need to win. To truly dissolve the game, we forgive the other and reconcile ourselves. I'm going to stop the screen share for a second here. I just want to hear from you guys to see if there's any questions that are coming up from this. Let me know if this sounds strange or your comments, observations here.
It sounds interesting. I mean, I like the idea of letting go and maybe realizing that what you're clinging on is sometimes really linked to ego and all that. But I have a few practical examples in mind, and in there I'm not sure it's about ego. So let's make it something more generic. So let's say someone is really, in some situations, is really not respecting you and doing things really not to respect you. So I like the idea of letting go, even just for yourself, because then you're not, you let go of the part clinging to trying to get respect from the person. So I get this, but on the other hand, you're still letting the other person, I mean, I can't imagine how it's good to let the other person continue to not respect you and to show you disrespect and to behave badly towards you, and also in front of other people, and that you also have to pay the price for the way they behave. So for example, okay, stupid example, when someone is always late all of the time, and not because they can't do otherwise, but just to disrespect you. So then, just because they just don't care. So how is it good? How does it make things move forward in what you're getting from them? That's the part I don't get.
Okay, so many variables on that. Oh, and there's lots of levels here. It's a great example because it's simple. Okay, there is a difference between knowing the prize you go for, and in what you described, I can already hear the prize you're going for. Do you, just from you having spoken, do you feel what you're really holding on to that you can't let go of? What's intolerable here if you think of losing? Okay?
I know two things for me in there are important. One is, so one is respect, and I mean just basic respect, not okay, just very basic respect, politeness. And the other thing is simply, well, in that situation for me, it's kind of unbearable every time that I get there in time, because I want to be sure that we have our table.
Okay, great.
Every time they just,
Great. So let's look at that. Let's make up a game here of what this is about. Okay. I'm going to just give you an analysis, true or not true, but let's take this as an example. Okay. So, for one, you're playing to win respect. Like there, I want respect from this person, and every time they're late, God damn it, they're disrespecting me. That makes me more angry. I need to discipline them. I need to tell them if I just let it go, they're gonna keep being late and walk all over me. Okay.
Okay.
You're playing a validation game. They're playing a power game.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yep.
Respect has more to do with I exist, right? I'm important. That's a validation thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also does have to do with power and status, but for you, this is more important. Like they keep invalidating me, I lose power. Mm-hmm. When they gain power every time they invalidate me. Do you understand?
Yes.
They are challenging your authority. Okay. Let's say that's an employee and you're a boss. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you say, you're late, and they say you're abusive. That offends me when you call me out like that. That's so rude, you know? What? But they can say that, right? So if I'm working on your internal conflict, okay, this is I will not be disrespected. If I can have you be more and more okay, so what is it? What's so bad? What's so fearful? What's so horrible about being disrespected? It might be I don't exist, I feel small, I feel meaningless. I can drop you into a resilient, essential place where you feel whole and complete. We can circulate those energies. I've talked about the vertical loop before, where we circulate the resilience in you. Then you're in a more calm place where I know I exist. I don't need to be respected, validated, late or not late. I know who I am. I know my place. I know my place in the game and the authority. Okay. So then it's non-threatening. Okay. The lateness is non-threatening. Now, there's a power game going on and you have a role, meaning obviously you have higher status, say, than this person. Because when they're showing up late, they're trying to be high status, but they feel low status, okay? Okay?
Okay, yeah.
An exception to the rule there is, say, when the CEO shows up late to look like the most important person in the room, that's more a validation thing. It's a show of, look at my power, everybody waited for me. That's more validation. But if I show up late to control the situation, I got to make you wait before we can start the meeting. And then I could play all ashamed and all that, so you don't discipline me. And I say, I'm sorry, I had an excuse, I slept in, I had to get my hair done. I mean, you know, I'm trying to diffuse having a confrontation. That is a power game. Do you understand? You guys understand that difference? Okay. So, when you're okay with being disrespected, now you can play into your role of authority and say, excuse me, you're late. And you're not coming from an empty, fearful place of red where I have to discipline this guy because I can't let him disrespect me. No, you're already okay with that. Now you can have a different conversation. Okay? And you can treat them like a human being. You follow what I'm saying, Mr. Luke?
This is
of neutralizing. So if you understand your own internal game, you can now play that external game a little better. Okay? They may still fight you. But if you've got your sense of validation in check and you're from resilience, and they can say, well, you're a piece of shit and don't tell me what to do. You know, my dog died. What am I supposed to do? You know, and try to throw all these manipulative bids to stop the confrontation. And they're still, what they're trying to do is gain more status, right?
Well, in my personal example, it's a bit different because there's no authority really involved. It's with friends. And they come late.
No, Philippe, there's always authority involved, even with friends.
Okay, maybe. Well, in a sense, yeah, true. In a sense, I meet with two friends and they both come late. And when I point out that they're late, and they say, basically the discourse is, they say that it doesn't matter, that I'm really making a point about nothing. but I mean, they're always both of them late, and I always have to wait for both of them.
All right.
So here, authority, I mean, I can't use authority on them.
Right. So again, it's disrespect, and they're blatantly saying it like, well, why should it even bother you? We can just show up whenever we want. So then why did we make a time and a place, right? So if you want to play a few different game options, number one, you say, well, you're late, and you know, okay, why? And, you know, I waited. All right, well, this time it's fine, but please, you know, next time, just send me a message that you're running late. Don't just show up late.
Mm-hmm.
What to do. Option two, leave.
Yeah.
Wait 10 minutes, leave. They send you a text, where are you? You say, well, I waited 10 minutes, you weren't there, so I've moved on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And but the way we play it in EED is, that's a provocation. Now I want to see the response. Okay?
No, sorry, I missed the part. We want to see what?
I want to see the response. How do they respond back? And then we're trying to see what's the game they're playing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit about how we play games. We either aggravate the game, we play it up and aggravate it, or we resist, meaning, no, what you did was not good enough. Like, just try to be more late. You know, let's see how that goes. Or you're not allowed to be late, right? What do you mean I'm not allowed to be late? Well, from now on, you're not allowed to be late. Well, we're no longer friends. That's like a resist. That's, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
An aggravation would be like, you're so late, or you be late yourself, right? You know they're going to be late. Now I'm going to be late. Let's see what happens. So that's a bit of maybe actually swapping roles to see what goes on. So these are tactics to play the game, but we don't play it to win or lose. We play it to see what's actually going on. How do they respond to this? How do they respond to that? Because it's going to reveal, what's this actually about? Control, validation? Is this about disrespect? Is this something else? Okay. Do you follow me here?
Yeah, I follow you, but I'm also wondering at the same time, is it better to play the game to see how they react, or is it better to just ask them, okay, so what's so important for you, and what's important for you in being late? What does it bring you to be late?
Yeah, and then they'd say, stop coaching me.
Sorry?
And then they'd say, stop coaching me.
Right.
The point is, you are not wrong to say, okay, you're late, that upsets me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if they say, look, I'm late, I'm sorry, it won't happen again, great, fine. Yeah. But if that happens 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you say, well, okay, yeah, I know you're sorry, but this happens every time. So it's tiresome for me. You have no sense of time, true or not true.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That's a little different, right?
Yeah. And then because this happened, and then they say, yeah, true. So what?
Okay, fine. Say fine. Okay, so you don't have a sense of time, so that means we just plan differently. Okay, and in your head, you can say, well, do I want to have lunch with this person the next time? Or do I let them set the time, and then I'll give them a 15-minute grace, because it seems like they're always late by 15 minutes. So in fact, they're always on time if I arrive 15 minutes later than them. Yeah. Do you understand? There's then more acceptance involved. But if you keep playing to win, is that you must be on time and I can't tolerate anything else, you're now the aggressor. Do you understand? You're fueling the fire. This again is where we talk about, look at the game, figure out or find what's your prize, where can you get some resilience and humility. And they may not budge, but when you show more resilience first, they start to relax. Basically. Yeah. Okay? This is, and again, you have to stop thinking about playing to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, here's the other point. You can decide to say, well, then I'm not playing this game. I deauthorize this game. I do not authorize it. That might mean you start dropping that friend. Mm-hmm. Let them chase you if they really need to see you. Mm-hmm. And you can start setting other game conditions. Change the game. Okay, they text you, say, you know, I really want to have lunch with you. And you say, well, my time's really limited. what's important here? What do we have to talk about? Well, I really need to see you for this, that, and the other. Okay, great. What time? When? What time? Okay, let's say, let's meet at 7. Fine, I have between 7 and 7:30. And I have to leave promptly at 7:30. Now you're setting them up to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't be so strict. Well, I'm in a busy work schedule. So this is the only window I've got. I really want to see you. It's the only window I got. Your choice. Because otherwise they'll try and play these validation games. You're mean, you're inflexible. You see, you're neutralizing all those manipulative bids. So you're learning the game, you're playing it better. Now you're co-creating the rules. Do you understand?
Yeah. On the other hand, so it sounds good, but on the other hand, if you take a step back, it sounds like for nearly every person that you're interacting with, you have to try and see what game they're playing, and you have to remember. So where was I in that game? So I was trying this with them to see if this works or not, and I've set other rules, etc. So it becomes a bit complicated that you have to remember every step of the game that you're in right now and which game you're playing with each person. So that's a bit tiresome in the end.
Yes and no. I'll tell you what. At first, when you start learning this stuff, and by the way, you can't learn it all in a 90-minute webinar, okay? I'm just giving you sort of an overview of how these things work. I mean, I spend all of Module 2 where you learn about how these polarities work, how this reptilian brain works, and how to start playing with the polarity, interrupting it, dropping it, and then building resilience, reintegrating that, going back into the game. And then we have the whole conflict workshop. It's another 3 days on how you can then, going through the conflict process and letting go of the game and creating reconciliation and dissolving the game. So, we're talking about 6 days of training here, okay? Mm-hmm. But you can already play with it. Getting an idea of, okay, what's my red, what's my green, what's their red, what's their green. The only way is by provoke, respond, and it's always through the response. Now, the good news is the game always repeats itself. So you don't necessarily have to keep track of it. It will come back in a flash. Oh yeah, okay, it's this. Okay, I see. Let's test that to see if it's really that. Because like I said, everything runs in repeating cycles. It's a fractal, okay? A repeating pattern. Mm-hmm. Also, your body has a memory as well, okay? So you don't have to note it and say, where are my notes? Your body immediately will feel it again if you allow yourself to feel through the game while you work. If you keep up the shield of nothing affects me, you're not studying the game, you're deflecting the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not sure if we're going to get to do this demo. When you're discovering the game, I want to show you something. It's called the primal cycle. Something essential that we're doing here. Okay, let me pull up that screen again. Here it is. Okay. So you can see this. Okay.
Sorry, could you give a quick example of the death door?
Okay, yeah. Okay, death's door. All right, I'll give you an example. Somebody. Where's my menu? Oh, Zoom is so awful. Still not quite used to it. Okay, I'll give you an example from an actual client. This was about, so this woman felt manipulated by her brother, okay, that, he would go out, have sort of an extreme lifestyle, kind of ruin his life, and then come crawling back on his knees towards her and say, you know, help me, forgive me. She'd help build him back up. And then he'd slap her back down, go take off, and the whole thing would start again, where he'd start destroying himself. And it was this repeating cycle. So she always felt betrayed by her brother, but always felt shamed and felt like she's on a guilt trip to always help him. And she couldn't stand seeing him being helpless, but she did not want to be used and abused by him either. Okay. Mm-hmm. So she eventually resolved it to herself to really keep the distance with it and have a more clean relationship, but she felt like her heart was shrinking and she's feeling heartless. This did not feel right. It did not feel good. Okay? And she wanted some kind of resolution with her brother, and she noticed this was affecting all her relationships. In fact, it started with she had a problem with men, but as we dove down into it, it was a core fractal that was going on between her and her brother, or it was the most relevant example for her. So she was always having problems with men in her life where she could only let them in so far, but could not be intimate with them, okay? She always felt like she would be exploited. And so she chose to be a tough girl, always a tough girl, okay, and be independent. But what she wanted most in the world was to be able to be loved, taken care of, and feel, you know, completely safe, but could not trust a man, could not. So her death's door ended up being, no matter what happened, when they would come close enough, whether they're begging for forgiveness, whether they want to reach out and touch, whether they want to be heart to heart, she would slam the door shut and say, absolutely not, you cannot come in here. You cannot come into my sacred space. He pushed them away. And I said, well, what's the alternative? I said, what if you stop pushing and let them in? This was about vulnerability. She goes, I would die. I would die. I would cease to exist. I would die. Absolutely no way. I said, so what do you always choose? And she says, I push them away. Whether that's really push them, punish them, walk away, run, doesn't matter. And I said, and what's that costing you? She said, it's costing me love. And she said when it was with her brother, it was like she was inviting a thief into her home. So I said, what would it be like to have no locks on your doors and this thief can have a run of your house, take everything, go away, say, I'm sorry, forgive me, you forgive him. And what if he never changes? What if he's always a thief? I would never let him in my house again. And I said, so what does that mean? That means I'm cutting him off. Do you want that? No. I said, so then you're caught between a rock and a hard place. That's what death's door is. So I think the key question for her was, what is it like to love a thief knowing they'll always be a thief? What does it demand of you to allow them to be that thief and still love them unconditionally? And it blew her mind. Completely blew her mind. And at that point, she was able to pass through death's door. She realized she was holding him prisoner. She needed him to be a thief so she could have betrayal, so she could never open her heart. You understand? Mm-hmm. That was her internal battle. And when she could let that go and be resilient enough to actually feel into unconditional love, the role of thief actually disappeared. Mm-hmm. And she didn't have to fight from a place of loss whenever she felt betrayed or stolen from. She could confront it and deal with it. And she also could still love the person. And even if they don't change, this allowed her then to also love her brother even if he kept destroying himself. And it didn't require her to help him because that also was a way of entering the game. You understand? She could release it all, but it was more about she was not allowing herself to experience unconditional love, and she needed to create thieves and betrayal. He needed those roles in order to justify that game. Tell me what you think of this, or how you're responding to this, hearing this, because sometimes it may sound really, really weird and strange.
Well, to make it make sense, I'm not going to go into details, but I experienced something a little similar, and it's true that when I stopped dreaming about how the other person could be and just accepted that person as she was and loved her for what I liked and clearly said what I didn't like too, it was clearly freeing, and it was enabling me to exchange what I want, what was possible to exchange. So yes. I completely get this how this helps feeling more free inside the exchange, and not having not expecting impossible things, not having inadequate expectations in a relationship.
Yes, or I would say conditional expectations, expectations that serve your game.
Yes. Yes. On the other hand, I'm not sure. I'm a bit afraid that when one behaves like that, one would be able to accept some behaviors from other people that would actually be how can I put that?
I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, that would still hurt you. That would be abusive. Okay, accepting abuse. That's what
yes, I am not. This is a very fine line that I need to define, and I want to. I'll go there in a second. Christina wrote, "My feeling is that we are playing a game every minute, but we are not conscious about the game we play." Yes, exactly. And where we go, when we're not conscious of the game, we think, why is all this happening to me? All this is happening to me. I'm feeling victimized. I'm feeling used. So we have to stop and say, what if this is a game? What's its part, and what's my response? That's helping you feel your part. So if you're constantly feeling stolen from, right, there's thieves. I'm being stolen from. So if I can accept that, okay, fine. The thief and the victim go together. What's it trying to teach me? Okay? And why in the world would I need this thief? I never asked for this. Do you understand? Like, once we start becoming conscious of our games, we're going to say, well, I didn't create this. But eventually, when we look deep enough, when we get closer to the lesson, we'll go, aha, okay, now I see why. Okay? I personally went through a period, talking about thievery, where a period of about a year and a half, I was getting pickpockets, chasing me, aggressing me on the streets, and 3 times they got me. I mean, I was otherwise very, very fighting them off, and I was able, but I thought, why am I a target? I'm being this target where it's like I could walk in a room and they're on me. It's like they could smell me. The phenomenon is I'm projecting something out. I'm playing a role, but I'm not conscious of my game. So all I'm seeing is the other side. The thieves show up. The vampires show up, okay? When I looked into this a lot deeper, I realized I was coming from a period where I had very, very low self-esteem. And I was in a desperate place of validation, and I was looking for anything that could validate me. How is that showing up? I'll show you some validation. I'll steal from you, okay? Do you understand? That's a stronger way of paying attention. Or I'm from such a weak place that I'll take any low-level validation. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Once I got a grip on myself, number one, I became resilient, saying, fine, I am nothing, I'm worthless. If I can be okay with that, and I am my own source of validation, I'm not looking to be validated by others, okay? I'm not looking for the attention. I'm not looking for someone to raise my self-esteem, okay? And then I said, I deauthorize these games. But you have to learn the lesson in order to deauthorize. Okay? So it all stopped. Suddenly, no longer aggressed, no longer even in the vicinity. It's like I jumped a frequency where they could no longer see me. Why? Because I'm not broadcasting the signal. That's how you deauthorize the game. You've got to learn the lesson to deauthorize the game. Christina says, I believe it's a practice of being an observer of your own reactions and ask about what is it that moves me. Yes, exactly. And you want to look at the game like, okay, I got an enemy in front of me. Well, what's the enemy trying to teach you? What are they doing to you? How are you responding? What are you holding on to? What's the prize they want? What's the prize you're holding on to? So you have to observe it. So in order to observe these games, you've got to play them. But play them safely. You don't have to. This is the great thing about EED is we don't have to escalate it to extreme violence, because you learn about the subtle dynamics. And you learn about this provoke, respond. You can see their little responses. Okay? Now, what was I going to move into? I got a little bit off. There was something earlier I wanted to bring or talk about. It was back to you, Philippe. Do you remember? Oh, fine line. That fine line. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. So, talking about lateness, or talking about, say, thievery, or even talking about the justice system. What I am not saying is, I'm not saying accept the thief and let them do whatever they want. I'm saying accept the thief, accept that that person is a thief, but you don't have to authorize being stolen from every time you come into contact with them, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying accept who they are. Don't try to punish them from your own sense, your own game of justice, saying, I'm going to make you pay. Because that's revenge, that's retaliation, that's another game in itself. That's the victim-persecutor game, okay? And you can discipline the thief. You can say, you stole, and now there's justice, okay? There's consequences. Now you pay the consequences, okay? You can still be, but you're doing it from a place of resilience, acceptance, and inner peace. It's not from a place of rank and revenge, because that's game level. You guys understand the difference. You can discipline from resilience, where you're not getting your own personal prize and satisfaction out of it. It's just a fact is a fact. You stole, you repay. Understand? And at the same time, I can forgive you the debt, or I can forgive you the act of thievery. You've made your amends, right? Because other times we want justice, but we will never forgive. Right? Now, if they steal again, hey, that's the second time, right? They steal again, hey, that's the third time. Now this is about discernment, okay? So you can accept, okay, this is who they are. Now, if I'm going to, why would I let them steal from me a fourth time? That's stupidity. What am I really trying to do? Am I trying to change them, convert them? Or am I addicted to making them pay? Now I'm a persecutor. I pretend to be a victim so I can persecute them. Do you understand those are different things? Yes. Or is this person just, that is who they are, that is their game, I don't want to play that game anymore. So it's deauthorized. Meaning, now, I leave you in the dust. You're on your own. You understand? I don't enter that game anymore. That's discernment. Do you understand? Okay, so I know that every time this person comes to my party, something goes missing. Why do I keep inviting them to my parties? Well, I could lock everything up, of value, and then be okay if they steal a nickel or a euro off my counter, but I don't want them taking my phone, right? So I lock that away. That's one way of dealing with it. In a way, I'm accepting they're a thief, and I still invite them to my house. But do I accept my own comfort level of locking everything up? And if I say, this feels weird, I don't want to do that, then don't lock everything up and stop inviting that person to your house. You understand? And they might say you're a mean person, and if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. Love you, I really love you, but no, you're not authorized to enter my house as long as you keep it. thief. You want into my house? You earn your way in. You understand? You prove to me you're no longer a thief. And when you're in my house, you don't steal. Simple, right? You define the rule. That is different. Do you hear how it's different? Or feel free to oppose me or question me on it. I just want to know what you're thinking, how you're reacting.
Yeah, well, to make sense, now I was just wondering about the success rate of that for the other person, but on the other hand, I'm just thinking about this. It's not your problem. I mean,
exactly.
The person yeah.
This goes into the manipulation bit.
And it's their responsibility what they do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, all you can do is make people accountable to themselves, and anytime they throw you a hook of obligation where somehow you're obligated, throw the hook back. These are what are the manipulation bids. Okay, so I'm thinking, we can talk briefly about that, Irene. It's these manipulation games. So manipulation always comes from fear, somebody trying to create a game. They pull you in by either seducing, they show you their green and say, come get it, okay? And then what they do is they grab your green, okay? It's a way of, they're attracting you through your weakness, and then they grab your strength and they keep it, okay? And then they push you away, okay? That's the manipulative bid where they try to steal your green, okay? That's the classic seduction, carrot, okay? Mm-hmm. Or they aggravate your weakness. You're really struggling here. Well, maybe I can help you, and I can, again, that's dangling the carrot, but they aggravate your weakness. Then there are other manipulative bids where they can shame, they call you a bad person. I have a whole list here. Yeah, they put you in the doghouse, like, it's the other way around. You did something wrong, and they say, how dare you do that to me? I'll never forgive you. You're such a bad person. And you say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And they say, well, I don't know if I'm sorry is good enough, right? And they hold you in that doghouse for years, months, weeks. It's like they hold that grudge, and they'll never live it down. You can never live it down, okay? Or they become the moral preacher, like, wow, they take this high road, like virtue signaling, like, well, I could never do that. What you did was so horrible, I would know better. You should know better. Something, things like that. They patronize you, like, you could say, I'm sorry, and you go, well, finally, you admit that you're sorry. Finally, you say you're wrong. I mean, that's all manipulation. It plays on the sense of power, validation. You guys get these senses? They're hooking you into something. They're creating a status, okay? You throw that back. You just throw it back, okay? Irene, did you have a comment or anything here?
Well, I recognize the behavior of this person that just by your example, and is try, for example, with me to convince me that at the low price of my fee, I have to be grateful with him, and I say to him, I know that you don't believe this because in your tone of voice, I feel that you feel guilty to pay me so low price. So don't try to tell me some lies like that. Tell me the truth of your heart. He was shocked. He was completely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't aggressive. I asked him just talk from the depth of your heart, and he didn't. I let him speechless completely.
So you did that. That's what we call, you neutralized the manipulative bid, right? How did you do that? Two things: congruency, meaning actions and words. Okay.
Yes.
They don't match. You go with fact. What's the fact? Action. What's the action? You're paying me well below standard rate.
Yes.
That's the fact. You can say all you want, but you're not, and part of the, are you appreciating my work? Do you thank me? Or do you continue taking advantage of me? Or you keep saying, I need you to do more and more and more, but no, I can't pay you more. And you know damn well that you're underpaying me to begin with, right? And if I say no, now you're guilt tripping me on this. What are my responsibilities? Well, the fact is, you're already paying me way below. I'm overperforming, right? And you spoke to the heart. Yeah. Speak to the heart.
Yes, this is something that neutralizes all kind of conflict.
The important thing here is you're coming from resilience yourself.
Yes.
Not punishing them, okay? Because now you're in the game. If they manipulate you and you now say, how dare you try to manipulate me, and teach them a lesson, you're now in a game. You understand? You stay with fact and congruency. That is it. And you throw the obligation back to them. A great example. Oh, I really enjoy spending time with you. We should go out and eat. Let's have dinner sometime. Okay, when? Well, when's good for you? How about Wednesday? I'm free. Well, Wednesday's kind of a tough day. Are you available Wednesday? Well, no, not really. Well, when are you available? Well, maybe, you can text me and get back to me. Well, no. When are you available? Look at your schedule. You see how they're trying to put the responsibility on me to make the decision, but any decision I make isn't good enough. That's a power game. But when I hold them accountable and I say, look, open your schedule book. Well, I don't have it with me. Then I say, fine, yeah, you text me. You give me a message when you know you're available and we'll set it up. Then guess what? They don't text me. Next time I see them, oh, we never did dinner. Why didn't you call me? You see, they're pushing the obligation and responsibility on me. I just throw it back. I say, well, the last thing we said was you were going to text me when you were available. You didn't, so I assumed you were busy. I assumed you didn't want dinner. If you really want dinner, you contact me and you give me a day when you're available, and I'll make myself available for that day. Now, I have to hold myself accountable to that, okay? Mm-hmm. So if they say, well, I'm available Saturday. Okay, fine. Saturday's tight, but okay, when's your window? Well, we could do lunch at 2. Fine, I'll move an appointment and I'll be there for 2. You see, that's not manipulation, okay? You're also building trust. You held them accountable. You made it a little easy on them. Fine. You do that once. Okay, then, they got to reciprocate. Here's another one. Okay, well, then where should we eat? Well, what do you want? Italian, Greek, or Japanese? I don't know. I was thinking something vegetarian. Okay, vegetarian it is. Well, where do you go? You got 2 choices, this or that. Well, I don't know. What do you think's better? Let's go to the falafel place. Yeah, but falafels and... Let's go to the salad place. Yeah, but I don't want salad. Okay, you know what? You don't know what you want to eat. This is really hard. You want lunch or not? See, again, they're avoiding the decision. So you got to make the choice. Or you say, well, let me know when you want to go somewhere. Or you just say, meet me here at this, say, and if they keep questioning, say, well, it's not good enough, then you offer it to them. That's how you throw it back to them. And if they cannot respond with a choice, you make the choice for them, and that's when you say there is no other choice. You understand? Mm-hmm. You understand how that works? Give them the opportunity, throw their bid back, but you'll get to know those games really fast. Those are some real common examples. Is this making sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's how you can start neutralizing those games. You're not solving the conflict. By the way, we don't solve conflicts. The only way they'll dissolve is when you learn the lesson and let go of the prize, and that's a whole big process. All you can do is get to know the games, get to know what you're holding on to, cultivate your own resilience. When you drop into resilience, they'll mirror it, drop into more resilience. The game becomes less clingy and important. You can start to have more of this unity consciousness, which is a co-creative state where there is no status, there's no karmic obligation between the two. There truly is a oneness. Okay, and that's when you understand the dream of the relationship. It usually is unity, but it could be love, it could be peace. Great, enjoy what that feels like. And then we can go back into our roles, our position, our status, we can play this game. But now when we've had a taste of resilience, we drop back into that. That's how we can start managing conflict better, is experience the game and the dream freely moving back and forth. If you allow yourself to let go of your ego and identity a little bit and experience your essence, the game feels less disturbing. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Quick question. In your example, would it work to tell the person, well, I see that, and I'm telling you that with love, I see that it's a bit hard for you to make choices. So let me make it easy for you, and let me make the choice. So let's meet at that day, at that time, at that place. And does anything in that shock you? No, it's okay. So let's meet at that time. I
wouldn't add does anything that shock you, because they could say, yes, it shocks me. I'm feeling very uncomfortable with it. You understand? Don't open that. Yeah. So look, we have a couple choices here. I'll make a choice. I guarantee you, I have your best interest at heart. I'll find a great place.
Yeah. Okay.
Or go research. Go tell me a place. Because most of the time, they just don't want the responsibility of making the decision. No fault of yours or theirs. They're just uncomfortable with the choice, because they might even be a perfectionist. You don't. But you gotta take the reins at some point.
Yeah.
And you can just say, okay, look, okay, so how's this? Great. This happens a lot, and some people do this consciously. I'll just say, well, here's what I suggest. How's that for you? Well, I don't like that place. Great. Do you have a suggestion? Well, no. Okay. I've got one other alternative.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Agreed? Well, I guess, all right. Don't be manipulated by their dissatisfaction. Let them have it, okay? And then say, in the meantime, if you find a better place, just text me and we'll go there. Do you understand? That neutralizes.
Yeah.
Then the ball's back in their court. They're responsible for themselves. But at least you made some headway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay. Yeah. Any final questions here? Because we're at time and we'll need to close. I didn't get to the demo, but maybe I'll have to save that for another time or make a special webinar. Any final questions here?
No.
What do you walk away with that either feels insightful or new or exciting?
I feel excited, and your lessons anytime are exciting, because in a way I recognize my experience. In another way, I really love the way you teach. It's simple, it's insightful, and it's like an anchor of what I'm experiencing.
Awesome. Thank you, Irene.
Irene, it's the same. I love all the way my name was pronounced.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? Final words, yeah.
Yeah, for me, the main takeaway, I think, is asking myself basically what the game is, and what the other person is playing as a role, and mine. I like that, less than really this is an open conflict. So I'll try to have this perspective.
Excellent. Just ask yourself, is it win or lose? Compromise is also win or lose, okay? Because you're still feeling like you're losing. Then okay, I'm in a game. Fine. Nothing wrong with that. You can play it up a little bit to see what's going on. But then ask yourself, okay, what am I clinging to? If I can let that go a little bit and still be okay, what's that like? Now you're dropping more into essence and resilience. Mm-hmm. Then you can look at the game again from there. You'll get a different perspective. Then you can go back in. So when we're positional, that means we feel like we're a half of the equation. We need to win or lose or compromise. That's game level. So just simply having that awareness is already taking you long strides ahead. Yeah. Alina, you wanted to add? Oh, wait, here. Christina says, I really enjoyed this and it helped me connect to a lot of stuff in my mind. Thank you. And thank you, Christina, for joining us. And Alina.
So the last, your last questions about clinging. So what I'm clinging in, but also what the other person is clinging at. Mm-hmm. Both of them are of interest to when you try to, when I will try to, you know, look at the conflict from aside, from yes. Outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Christina also asked, do you release this for listening again? Yes, you'll all receive a recording of this webinar tomorrow, okay, along with an email, and it contains more information about the EED program. What I wanted to say about that, when you discover clinging, what am I clinging to? That's your green. That's the what I feel I need or want. And then what am I clinging against or in reaction to?
Right.
That's the red. What am I avoiding or fearing? That's the sense of loss. So you can find both. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm running away from the red to cling to the green. And if I let go of the green, I'm going to go back into that red. So you're always finding both ends, okay?
Yeah.
EED teaches you to think in those polarities, okay? It's not a normal way of thinking, but you can easily train yourself. It's like if there's A and there's B, I find myself going towards B, easy to find where it came from, A, okay? That's it. Mm-hmm. It's all positional. And we swing back and forth. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is the main thing EED is teaching you, especially as it applies to conflict, we teach you a dual awareness. An awareness of being inside the game, and then also this awareness of being able to observe it from the outside, right? Mm-hmm. And so eventually you start to master this dual awareness. It's not easy to cultivate, but it's completely possible. And it takes practice, okay? Mm-hmm. That helps you along managing your personal conflicts. It's way easier to manage somebody else's conflict because you only have outside awareness. Mm-hmm. But when you're managing personal conflicts, you need that dual awareness, being in and out at the same time. It's tricky to learn, okay? And it's not always successful because sometimes you get trapped in the game, you get triggered. But eventually you get enough resilience and awareness that it's like water sliding off your back. You can play the game, even your triggers come up, but you still have a piece of your mind outside able to watch. And that's when it gets really fun. And if you have two people having a conflict with that dual awareness, there's really no need for the conflict because now it becomes a creative act. That's why EED alumni can have real fun with each other because they can get in these frictional moments, but they understand the difference between game and dream, and they can guide each other. Mm-hmm. And when you're okay being in both places, you have a much fuller experience. Then you learn the games faster. And we've all pre-programmed ourselves to learn certain games. Okay, and we spend our lifetimes learning these games. So I'm going to close it. So those are some of my summaries. If you have any further questions, always feel free to contact me. We have the courses starting again in October. That's October 12th in Paris. We have October 19th in Munich. We have, and then in Toronto, October 26th. That is going to be, that's for Module 1. Directly related to this content, we have Module 2, which is about polarities and resistance, and then our application course, Reconciling Conflicts, which is all about this in great depth and detail. But Module 1 is the foundation. That's what gets you started to learn about game, dream, provoke, respond, and to start to cultivate this dual awareness where you can be inside and outside. It's very applicable to coaching, consulting, management, leadership, facilitation. All of it. It gives you the base of it. Also, our website is going to be launched soon. But I'll give you the web address. It's essence-dynamics.com. So ESSENCE-dynamics.com. If you go there now, it's going to say our site is under construction, but it has links on there where you can go to the registration sites for the courses. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I'm building a nice site with lots of centralized information, and eventually we'll be able to register from the site itself. But we're still using Eventbrite for the registration of the courses. So already, bookmark our website. It should be ready in a few weeks. Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. The next webinar is September 6th, and this is going to be around, the topic's going to be about a lot of fulfillment tools that we use. One being essential purpose, which is resilience in action and contributing, about resilience and contribution, and the hero's journey, which is outlining our transformational cycle. Okay, this very much applies to leadership and coaching. So more info to come out on that, and you'll all receive an email with the recording. Thank you everyone for joining. It was a pleasure to see you all again, and pleasure to meet you, Christina. I hope you come to our next ones. And yes, Christina, I'll send you a recording of the webinar on masks and shields. Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, it was a pleasure to be with you.